Back on the day of the graduation trip after the college entrance exam, I decisively found an excuse to avoid this trip. When my former classmates all made it onto the social news, my heart remained utterly calm. Hello everyone. Welcome to Empress Revenge Stories. Let's begin this story. When my phone started buzzing wildly against my pillow, I snapped my eyes open, drenched in cold sweat as if I'd just been pulled out of water. The time on the screen clearly read 6:30 a.m. June 10th, 2026. I stared at that year and date. My palms slick with sticky sweat, no thick, cloying smell of blood, no roar of rain pounding into mud, no searing pain of breaking bones. I was lying in my own bedroom, barely 10 square meters, the old ceiling fan creaking and spinning above my head. I had been reborn, back to the third day after the college entrance exams, the very morning of the class graduation trip. The constant ding of WeChat notifications made my palm tingle. I unlocked the screen. The graduation trip group chat for Class 3, Grade 12 had completely exploded. The class president, Gu Yanfeng, had sent several voice messages, his voice brimming with youthful bravado. Classmates, the bus has arrived at the school's main gate. Hurry up. The route we're taking today is a custom exclusive. I guarantee everyone will have a blast. When we get there, I'll treat everyone to roast whole lamb. Below were cheers and applause from classmates. Our president is so generous. As expected of Feng, the bus is so well arranged. I gripped my phone, my fingertips turning white from the pressure. Memories from my past life surged in like a tide. The so-called custom route, the self-drive exploration of a hidden gem, it was all just Gu Yanfeng trying to get a 200 yuan per person kickback from the owner of an illegal scenic spot that had no business license. He was dragging the whole class of over 30 people straight to their doom. Just then, someone at me in the group, Su Manting, the arts and entertainment secretary, sent a photo of everyone gathering at the school gate, followed by a message. At Qiao Yuan, you're the only one missing from the safety team. Why aren't you here yet? Everyone's waiting for you. The driver says if we don't leave soon, the highway will get clogged. That sentence immediately turned the spotlight on me. Then Jiang Nai sent a voice message in the group. He was the class troublemaker. His family owned several supermarket chains, so he had money to burn, and he used to throw his weight around at school. Even Gu Yanfeng had to butter him up. Jiang Nai's voice carried thick impatience and condescending arrogance. Qiao Yuan, are you coming or not? Can you, as a man, be a little more decisive? Don't hold up the whole class because of yourself. If you're not coming, say so now and stop wasting everyone's time. I let out a cold laugh at these familiar yet alien words. In my past life, I was timid and cowardly, terrified of being ostracized. The moment I saw Jiang Nai and Su Manting saying such things in the group, I was so scared that I didn't even eat breakfast before grabbing my bag and rushing to the school gate, only to send myself straight into hell. But now, my heart was utterly calm. I sat on the edge of my bed and leisurely typed a reply in the group. Sorry, I suddenly had a fever last night. I'm completely weak right now and can't make it today. You guys have fun. Don't wait for me. After typing, I sent it. The group fell into an eerie silence for a few seconds, probably because they hadn't expected Qiao Yuan, who usually didn't dare to even breathe loudly, to outright refuse the group activity. Soon enough, Gu Yanfeng called me directly. Looking at the name flashing on the screen, I pressed the answer button and also hit record. Hey, Yuan, what's going on? Gu Yanfeng's voice sounded very concerned, but the pressuring tone that brooked no refusal was impossible to hide. Are you too tired? We've been high school classmates for 3 years and finally made it to graduation. This trip wouldn't be complete without everyone. I already fronted the money for your ticket and accommodation. You suddenly not coming leaves an empty spot. Everyone will be so disappointed. He deliberately emphasized. Fronted the money. And disappointed. Trying to pressure me with money and group honor. In the past, this tactic worked on me every single time. I moved the phone a little farther away, put on a hoarse and weak voice, and even deliberately coughed twice. Class president, I really can't make it. I had a fever of 39.2 degrees C this morning. I can't even get out of bed right now. If I force myself to come and end up passing out on the way or infecting other classmates, that would be even worse. As for the money you fronted, I'll transfer it back to you on WeChat in a bit. I'm really sorry. When he heard that I was going to pay him back, Gu Yanfeng clearly choked for a moment. His little kickback scheme deflated halfway upon hearing that the money would be returned, but he still felt it was a blow to his pride, since he was used to having the final say in the class. All right then, get some rest. But Yuan, don't take this the wrong way, you still need a sense of group honor for group activities. Everyone was waiting for you, but your body really let us down. Gu Yanfeng's tone had cooled, carrying a hint of condescending reproach. Yeah, sorry for causing trouble for the group. I humored him along, not arguing back in the slightest. After hanging up, I immediately found Gu Yanfeng's profile on WeChat and transferred the 300 yuan travel deposit I'd paid earlier. Not a penny less. On the other end, Gu Yanfeng accepted it almost instantly. After taking the money, he didn't even reply with a, "Get some rest." I opened the class group chat, and by now the tone had shifted. Su Manting made a snide comment. What a shame Qiao Yuan isn't coming. I heard Jiang Nai specially brought high-end camping gear and lots of good food. Some people just aren't meant to enjoy such blessings. Jiang Nai followed up with a disdainful voice message. Enough. Don't mention the buzzkill. One less of him doesn't matter. One more of him is just extra baggage. Driver, close the door and drive. Let's go. Then came a string of likes and cheering emojis. I watched the messages fly by on the screen and coldly exited the group chat interface. In my past life, it had been the same time, the same weather, torrential rain all the way. But Gu Yanfeng, to save on the entrance fee to a legitimate scenic spot and to get the large cut from the unscrupulous owner, ignored the driver's repeated warnings and forced him onto a privately carved mountain road that even navigation couldn't find. Meanwhile, Jiang Nai, seeking so-called thrills, had brought illegal outdoor knives and hard alcohol in his bag. That heavy rain lasted 3 days and 3 nights. A landslide completely blocked the only way out. There was no signal, no supplies. The bus broke down halfway. On the 4th day without water or food, those classmates who usually dressed smartly and spouted morality at school completely tore off their human masks, fighting over half a bottle of water and a pack of instant noodles. From start to finish, I didn't say a single word in the group to warn them, because I knew their true nature all too well. In their eyes, I was just a powerless, eccentric outsider. If I went into the group now to say, "It's dangerous there, don't go," not only would no one believe me, but Jiang Nai and Su Manting would accuse me of cursing the group and being sinister-minded. Gu Yanfeng would think I was blocking his money-making scheme and would start an even bigger online witch hunt against me in the class. Respect others' fates. Let go of the savior complex. Since they were so eager for that adventure, let them go. I put down my phone and walked to the window. The early morning sky was somewhat overcast. The air was stiflingly hot, making it hard to breathe. The clouds in the distance were pitch black, a clear sign of an impending downpour. I took a deep breath, went to the kitchen, and boiled myself a bowl of steaming noodles. As the fragrant aroma filled the room, I truly felt that I was alive again. After eating the noodles, I started cleaning my desk. On it lay the college application guide that had been handed out a few days earlier. In my past life, because of that trip, I not only suffered severe physical disabilities but also missed the optimal time for submitting my college applications. In the end, I could barely get into a local community college. Meanwhile, Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai, thanks to their family connections, had early on washed their hands of any blame and pinned all responsibility on the dead driver. This time, everything was different. My grades were good enough for that top-tier key university out of province. I opened the application form and, with a fountain pen, filled in the name of the school that had been my dream in my past life but had slipped through my fingers. Outside, the sky had completely darkened. The first raindrop hit the window glass with a pat. I took out my phone and glanced again at the Class 3 group chat. 2 minutes earlier, Su Manting had posted a short video. In it, the bus had already merged onto the outer ring highway. Deafening disco music was playing inside, and classmates were shouting into the camera. Snacks in hand, Chang Ziheng sat in the last row, his face looking pale. He was the class's nice guy, usually low profile and always sent on errands by Jiang Nai. In the video, Jiang Nai had his arm around Chang Ziheng's neck, forcing beer down his throat. Chang Zihong coughed violently, choking, while the surroundings erupted in laughter. Gu Yanfeng sat in the front row, holding the tour guide's microphone and shouting excitedly, "Classmates, 1 more hour after we exit the highway, and we'll be at our private campsite. Tonight, we won't leave until we're drunk." Everyone's face on the screen appeared somewhat twisted under the flickering filter. I watched that bus heading straight into the abyss, gently tapped my finger on the screen, and set the group chat to mute. The heavy rain finally poured down in full force. By noon, the sound of rain hammering against the window had turned into a dense drumbeat. I sat at my desk, cross-referencing the previous year's admission score lines as I filled out my college applications, watching my phone coldly from the corner of my eye. The red notification dot for the Class 3 group chat had accumulated to 99, even though I'd muted it. The progress bar representing their revelry kept advancing. I picked up my phone and unlocked it. Half an hour ago, Sue Manting had posted over a dozen carefully edited photos. The pictures showed a valley surrounded by mountains, with several huge white glamping tents set up in the middle and atmospheric fairy lights hung nearby. Can you even believe this? Where the class president found this place is absolutely incredible. This is a true hidden gem, only 2 bars of signal. None of that noisy commercial tourist vibe. Sue Manting added 3 screaming emojis after the text. In the background of the photos, Gu Yanfeng stood next to a convertible off-road vehicle, shaking hands and smoking with the black site owner, who wore a fleece jacket and had a face full of fierce flesh. Gu Yanfeng's back was ramrod straight, his face radiating pride as if he were directing the world. He was clearly thrilled with the owner's high-level reception. But as a child who grew up in the mountains, I spotted the problems at once. The soil in those photos was noticeably dark to the point of being black. The vegetation at the edge of the valley had its roots fully exposed due to illegal excavation earlier on. More importantly, they had set up their base camp directly below the floodway where 2 mountain peaks converged. In such a rainstorm, that place was a natural death trap. Just then, a male classmate whose family did construction work also sensed something wrong and weakly sent a message. "Class president, this place looks a bit like a landslide zone. And I saw the weather forecast say there's going to be an extremely heavy rainstorm in this mountain area this afternoon. Maybe we should switch to a proper resort." As soon as this message appeared, the atmosphere in the group froze for a moment. But before Gu Yanfeng could say anything, Jiang Nai jumped in. He directly sent a voice message. The background noise filled with the sound of heavy rain and a revving car engine. "Zhang Cheng, stop spreading bullshit here. Feng went through so much trouble to secure this place. Everyone paid less than half of what a regular scenic spot would cost. And here you are, talking doom and gloom before you've even had any fun. If you're such a coward, just admit it. Go home and lie down like that Qiao Yuan, and stop ruining everyone's good time." Jiang Nai's tone was absolutely vile. In my past life, it was with this kind of bullying tone that he had ruthlessly suppressed every dissenting voice in the class. Gu Yanfeng then sent a text message. His tone was gentle, but between the lines was an unshakable authority. "Everyone, rest assured, I've checked with General Manager Wang of the scenic area multiple times. Although this place isn't fully developed yet, the geology is very stable. General Manager Wang has been navigating mountain roads for decades. He's very experienced. When you're out having fun, this is the kind of nature exploration you want. If we go through the motions and visit those crowded places, what's the point? Everyone get your luggage together and get ready to move into the tents." With the class president and the school bully applying pressure together, that classmate named Zhang Cheng immediately dared not say another word. He only sent an emoji of acknowledgement in the group. The chat soon returned to its carnival atmosphere. I watched their successive flattery, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. Gu Yanfeng cared too much about the fragile authority he had struggled to build. He also hated to part with the kickback money he had already secured. If he now admitted that the route was problematic, he would not only have to refund the money but also lose face in front of the entire class. To save face, he would rather gamble with everyone's lives. At 3 in the afternoon, updates in the group became increasingly slow. Sue Manting posted a moment on her WeChat feed. The picture was a screenshot of her phone's signal bar, showing only a lonely indicating that the network was about to completely disconnect. She wrote, "Completely cut off from the world. No phone scrolling tonight, just enjoying nature and friends' company. For those who envy us, you can only watch from behind your screens." It was clear who this snide remark was aimed at. Even Chang Ziheng, the nice guy who rarely spoke in the group, was forced to post a location. In the video, Chang Ziheng's face was ashen, his clothes already soaked through. Jiang Nai had his arm on Chang Ziheng's shoulder, holding a sharpened outdoor survival knife, showing it off to the camera. "Look closely, pure imported titanium alloy knife. In a bit, I'll take you guys up into the hills to hunt wild rabbits." Jiang Nai raised an eyebrow provocatively at the camera. Some cowards won't ever eat anything but takeout in their whole lives. The video ended abruptly there. The last message in the group remained the one Gu Yanfeng had sent. "The signal's going bad. See you all tonight." After that, the chat for Class 3, Grade 12 fell into complete silence. I knew that the heavy fog and rain in the mountains had already severed the only connection between that abandoned campsite and the outside world's communication towers. The bus driver who had taken them there, at this moment in my past life, after discovering the mountain road's collapse, had gotten into a fierce argument with Gu Yanfeng and even refused to continue driving. But Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai thought the driver was just trying to extort them. Not only did they take his keys, but they also threatened to write a joint complaint letter to the transport company. In the end, that driver in his 50s had no choice but to give in. I put away my phone, having no intention of calling the police, because before any real disaster happens, an illegal scenic spot at most qualifies as a legal business operation. If I called now, the police would at most call Gu Yanfeng to check, and to cover up the kickback, Gu Yanfeng would definitely get the entire class to lie, saying they were just gathering at a legitimate resort. In that case, I would become the one ruining class relationships and stirring up trouble. You can never wake someone who's pretending to be asleep, nor can you save a group of gamblers who are willingly jumping into the fire. The sky gradually darkened. The rainstorm outside showed no sign of letting up. Instead, it grew heavier. The city's drainage pipes had started to backflow, and muddy water accumulated on the roads. I shut the window, pulled the heavy curtains closed, shutting out all the noise and the storm. On the computer screen, the college application system displayed, "Submission successful." I looked at the green text and let out a long sigh of relief. First choice, a key university in the north, a top-tier major. In this life, my path lay in the sunshine, while theirs had already walked into the night. At 9 in the evening, the phone on the table suddenly vibrated violently. It wasn't a WeChat notification, but a traditional text message, delayed by several hours due to the extremely weak signal and only now successfully sent. The sender was Chang Ziheng. The message was only a few words long, and in his panic, it contained several typos. Yuan, rain too heavy. Tent collapsed. Jiang Nai fighting driver. Phone won't let us leave. I'm so scared. I looked at that message, filled with fear and despair, my finger hovering above the screen for a long time. I didn't reply, because I knew very well that by this time, the only exit from the valley should have been completely blocked by the first wave of mudslides. What they now had to face was no longer a Class 3 graduation trip, but the arena of human nature. I deleted the message and then blocked Chang Ziheng's number. Tonight, I would sleep well. The next morning, I was startled awake by the sharp ringing of the phone by my pillow. A local, unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. I pressed the answer button. Before I could speak, the earpiece burst with my aunt's voice, so anxious it sounded almost distorted. "Yuan, where are you right now? You didn't go on that trip with your classmates, did you?" I rubbed my temples and made my voice sound calm with a hint of just woken up hoarseness. "Auntie, I'm at home. I had a fever yesterday, so I didn't go on the class graduation trip." "What happened?" Over the phone came the clear sound of my aunt heaving a huge sigh of relief. "Thank heavens. Thank God you didn't go. You didn't go. That's good. Quick, turn on the local news on TV, or check the trending page on your phone. Your school's Class 3 bus is in trouble. The whole city's saying the entire class has gone missing in the wilderness near North Mountain." After hanging up, I immediately sat up and unlocked my phone. I didn't even need to search, The headline on the local trending news was already a striking, deep red breaking alert, urgent. A tour bus carrying over 30 high school graduates was hit by a mudslide in the undeveloped area of North Mountain, cutting off their retreat. All passengers are currently missing. Rescue teams have rushed to the scene overnight. Below the news was a photo sent back from the Rescue Command Center. In the dark, heavy rain. The only asphalt road leading deep into North Mountain had been completely severed at the mountain pass. Fallen boulders and mud formed a wall several meters high. Several fire trucks and search and rescue SUVs with flashing lights were stuck on the outer side, where technicians struggled in the mud to set up temporary emergency base stations. According to the news bulletin, the secret valley that the black site owner had illegally fenced off, due to its narrow terrain and severe vegetation damage, had not only suffered multiple landslides on the only access road during last night's continuous torrential rain, but the only bridge out of the mountains had also been washed away by the flash flood. In other words, the place had become a completely isolated island. I refreshed the class group chat. It was still dead silent. The last message remained Gu Yanfeng's. The signal's going bad. See you all tonight. With no internet, no power, and even the bus presumably destroyed. Even if they wanted to send a message, they couldn't get a single string of data out. Just then, a new group chat invitation popped up on my WeChat. I clicked in. The group was called Class 3 Graduation Trip Parents Support Group, and the admin was Gu Yanfeng's mother. The moment she joined, she sent a dozen long voice messages, each over 10 seconds, her voice trembling with uncontrollable sobs and panic. Dear parents, Yanfeng and the kids' phones are all unreachable now. I contacted the bus company, and they said the bus's GPS signal got stuck inside North Mountain and hasn't moved since around 8 last night. Can anyone reach the kids in the mountains or the tour guide? I'm going out of my mind with worry. The parents in the group immediately exploded. Jiang Nai's father had clearly also received the news. He directly posted a photo in the group of himself driving toward the North Mountain Pass, with an extremely blunt caption. I've already had my assistant contact the city's search and rescue team. If my son loses so much as a single hair, that travel agency that organized the trip and the black guide who led them, I'll make sure they spend the rest of their lives in prison. Upon seeing Jiang Nai's father's message, Gu Yanfeng's mother panicked. Because in my past life, I had also caught wind of the truth. This trip had never gone through any legitimate travel agency. It was entirely arranged privately between Gu Yanfeng and that black site owner. If legal responsibility were to be pursued, Gu Yanfeng, as the organizer and someone who took kickbacks, could not escape liability. Gu Yanfeng's mother hurriedly tried to smooth things over in the group. Mr. Jiang, please don't panic. The children will be fine, they're blessed. Besides, this activity was voluntary for everyone. Yanfeng was just trying to save everyone some money. A good deed gone wrong. A good deed gone wrong. Another parent of a female student immediately retorted. My daughter posted on her WeChat moments last night that there was no cell signal and they were staying intense. If someone in the class hadn't stirred everyone up, why would a young girl go to such a wild, remote place? Now they're in there, and we don't know if they're dead or alive. Who's going to take responsibility? The parents group was in an uproar, but I just leaned back against my headboard, watching the textual confrontation on the screen with an expressionless face. In the face of extreme panic, those adults who were always so polite at parent-teacher conferences had already begun looking for someone to blame and to offload responsibility onto. Just as the parents group was in chaos, Su Manting's mother suddenly at me in the group. At Qiao Yuan's mom, wait. I remember Qiao Yuan was on the list. Yuan's mom. Can you get through to your daughter? Has she sent any messages home saying she's safe? Since my parents worked far away in another city all year round, I had been using this WeChat account myself. I didn't pretend not to see it. Instead, I calmly replied in the group. Hello, uncles and aunties. I'm Qiao Yuan. Before departure yesterday, due to a sudden high fever of 39.2 degrees C, I had already asked class president Gu Yanfeng for leave and transferred back to him in full the travel expenses and accommodation fees he had fronted for me. So I didn't get on the bus yesterday. I'm at home now, and I have no way of contacting the classmates in the mountains. To make my case more convincing, I directly posted to the parents group the screenshots of my WeChat transfer to Gu Yanfeng from that morning, as well as the chat log where I had voluntarily left the group and explained my fever to him, word for word. In the screenshots, my excuse for taking leave was reasonable. My transfer was clean and prompt, and the speed with which Gu Yanfeng accepted the money was striking. As soon as those screenshots were posted, the previously chaotic parents group fell into eerie dead silence. Every parent could see clearly, not only had I not gone, but I had also withdrawn from the whole affair before departure. More importantly, the screenshots clearly showed that Gu Yanfeng, knowing full well that a classmate couldn't attend due to illness and that the mountain weather had begun to deteriorate, still had no intention of canceling or postponing the trip. Instead, he smoothly took the refund and continued to take the rest on the bus. Jiang Nai's father was the first to let out a cold laugh, posting a text in the group. "Ha, now I see. Some people got a fever and missed the disaster. Others knew the weather was bad and still dragged the whole class along to save face." Gu Yanfeng's mom: "Your son sure knows how to be class president." Gu Yanfeng's mother, on the other side of the screen, was completely speechless. She didn't even dare to reply a single word. I exited the parents group interface and also set that group to mute. The chain of logic was complete. In my past life, as one of the victims, trapped on the mountain, I had stupidly helped Gu Yanfeng cover up the kickback, only to be thrown under the bus by all of them in the end. But in this life, I had washed off every bit of mud from myself and stood back to coldly watch the net they had woven begin, inch by inch, to tighten around their own necks. The rain outside continued, but the live news feed on local TV had already started. Rescue teams, braving the storm, were clearing the rubble at the mountain pass. On the screen, a high-definition drone had risen into the air, passing through thick fog, flying deeper into that isolated black site scenic spot. The real spectacle had only just begun. The storm in the parents group peaked at 3 in the afternoon. Even though I had posted the evidence clearing my name in the group, when people are in extreme despair and panic, logic often gets shredded by frantic anxiety. Xin Weiniang's mother suddenly started flooding the group, sending a dozen long voice messages in a row, her voice so sharp it was almost hysterical. "Qiao Yuan, since you had a fever and asked for leave, you must have called Yanfeng, right? What did the bus driver say? Which way did they go on that road? Since you knew you weren't going, why didn't you try to persuade everyone in the group earlier? If you had said just one more thing, maybe my Weiniang wouldn't have gone." This nearly robber-like line of questioning instantly drew agreement from several other parents who were at a loss. "That's right, Yuan. Even though you usually don't talk much in class, this is a matter of life and death. You can't just look out for yourself. If you had just reminded everyone that it might rain heavily in the mountains, the children wouldn't be trapped in there. How can you be so cold-hearted?" Watching these attempts at moral blackmail hurled at me through the screen, I sat on the couch without so much as a tremor in the hand pouring my tea. When disaster strikes, people always want to find an easy target to shift the blame to. In my past life, just because I was trapped at the campsite and said, "We should have listened to the driver," Xin Weiniang led a cyberbullying campaign against me, calling me a Monday morning quarterback and accusing me of intentionally shaking morale. But in this life, the evidence in my hands was the hardest shield. Without saying a single unnecessary word in the group, I went directly to the call recording on my phone, the entire audio from Gu Yanfeng's call to me the previous morning, converted it to a file, and dropped it into the group. In the audio, Gu Yanfeng's smug and condescending voice was crystal clear. "Yuan, we're all classmates. This trip wouldn't be complete without everyone. I already fronted the money for your ticket and accommodation. You suddenly not coming leaves an empty spot. Everyone will be so disappointed. You still need a sense of group honor for group activities. Your body really let us down." The recording played back plainly. It was entirely Gu Yanfeng pressuring me, even criticizing me for being unreliable when I said I had a fever. After the recording, I added only one cool-headed message. "Dear uncles and aunties. First, the school and the weather bureau sent out heavy rain warning text messages for 3 days straight before departure. Every parent's phone should have received them. Second, as you can hear in the recording, it was class president Gu Yanfeng who strongly urged me, who was sick, to come. I'm just an ordinary student. I have no ability to predict disasters. Nor do I have the authority to direct the class's itinerary. If not even a red alert from the Weather Bureau could stop everyone's enthusiasm for going out, I don't see how I, a sick person lying in bed, could dissuade a class president who was determined to take the whole class to a private campsite. These words and the recording were like two ringing slaps to the faces of those parents trying to find a scapegoat. Jiang Nai's father stepped up again, sneering in the group. Enough. Stop making fools of yourselves here. The girl was sick as a dog, and Gu Yanfeng was still using group honor to pressure her. It's plain to anyone with eyes who led the kids to their deaths. Instead of wasting time typing away at her, you'd better figure out how to come with me to the mountain pass to pressure the rescue team. The group fell completely silent. No parent dared to at me again. I left the group chat and tossed my phone aside. Moral blackmail no longer worked on me, because I didn't care one bit what anyone in class 3 thought of me. From the moment I decided to leave the group, my ties of friendship with them had been legally and logically severed cleanly. At 4:30 p.m., the heavy rain still hadn't stopped. But the search and rescue news on the local trending list suddenly updated with a short alert. Rescue teams have discovered the wreckage of the black site owner's off-road vehicle on the mountainside outside the landslide area. The car has been crushed by falling boulders and is deformed. No one is inside, but large amounts of cash and several forged tourism safety responsibility agreements were found scattered in the vehicle. The comment section below the news immediately drew a large crowd of local residents. This isn't a legitimate scenic spot at all. It's an illegally operated black site with no safety facilities. How much kickback did this class president get for taking people to a place like this? Over 30 students who just finished their college entrance exams. If anything happens to them, the organizer should be shot 10 times over, and it still wouldn't be enough. The snowball of public opinion was already rolling and growing. Gu Yanfeng and the black site owner's names were beginning to appear on the edges of social news. At that moment, I was standing on my balcony. The sky was black as ink, and thunder rumbled in the direction of North Mountain. I knew that by this time, the emergency food supplies in the mountains should have been nearly exhausted. At this time of day in my past life, because all the tents had collapsed, we had been drenched in the rain all day. To seize the only intact container tool room, Jiang Nai had gotten into a fierce fight with the driver, while Gu Yanfeng stood back and silently condoned Jiang Nai's actions. Selfishness, greed, brutality, these evils, held down by school rules, were now growing like weeds in that lawless mountain wilderness. They didn't need me to punish them. Nature and the demons in their own hearts would consume them bit by bit. I turned around and went back into my room to continue packing. There were still 2 months before the university semester started. I had already found an online translation gig to start earning my living expenses for college. My life was moving forward steadily, while their brutal struggle in the mountains was nothing more than a silent social news story occasionally flickering across my peaceful life. At noon on the 3rd day, the search and rescue operation achieved a breakthrough. The local official TV station started a live broadcast of the rescue, because the accident at the North Mountain Black Site scenic spot was so egregious, involving an entire class of college entrance exam takers. The live stream's viewership surged past 1 million within just 5 minutes of starting. Countless residents and netizens across the country were glued to their screens. I sat on the sofa, sipping hot tea, watching the rescue footage on my TV via screen projection. On the screen, the rain had begun to ease. The aerial drone passed through the thinning clouds and finally looked down upon the abandoned campsite that had been ravaged by the mudslide. The devastation at the camp was laid bare. The once beautiful, ornate white tents had been torn to shreds by the mud and rocks washed down from the mountains. The ground was a mess of floating plastic bottles and sludge. But the most eye-catching thing was the only sturdy structure in the center of the camp, a container that had been converted into a tool room. The camera zoomed in, its high-definition lens locking onto the scene in front of the container's door, where an exceptionally brutal internal conflict was erupting. No narration was needed. The visuals alone were stunningly powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, the search drone has located the trapped students' base camp, but we can see that a serious conflict seems to have occurred on the scene, the anchor said, her voice tinged with shock. In the shot, Jiang Nai was guarding the container's only door, holding in his hand the titanium alloy survival knife he had shown off before departure. He was soaking wet, his face full of menace, pointing the knife at several classmates outside. His lips were moving rapidly, clearly screaming curses. Standing in the mud was Arts and Entertainment Secretary Sue Manting and a few boys who usually followed Jiang Nai around. Sue Manting's usual prim and proper princess look was nowhere to be seen. Her designer sneakers were gone, her whole body caked in yellow mud, her hair disheveled. She knelt in front of the container door, trying to tug at Jiang Nai's pants, apparently begging him for something. But Jiang Nai showed no mercy. He raised his leg and kicked Sue Manting hard in the shoulder. She screamed and rolled several times in the mud. Utterly pathetic. What are these kids doing? Why are they fighting among themselves? The live stream's comment section exploded, with messages flying across the screen. Through the drone's high-quality audio and logical deduction from the footage, viewers across the country quickly understood the reason. The container toolroom stored the emergency food and water that the black site owner had originally prepared. It was the only hope of survival for the class of over 30 people, and Jiang Nai, relying on his physical superiority and the illegal knife, had simply seized the container, kicking out the vast majority of the remaining students into the pouring rain outside. Even more chilling was the behavior of class president Gu Yanfeng. Gu Yanfeng was not out in the rain. He was standing inside the container, behind a window. He had changed into a set of clean, dry clothes, holding half a bottle of water in his hand, watching his classmates in the mud with cold eyes. When some classmates outside tried to rush the container, Gu Yanfeng even actively helped Jiang Nai hold the iron door shut. This scene was broadcast live, without any editing, to the entire nation. Oh my god, that's the class president. His mom was just saying in the parents group that he was trying to do a good deed and save everyone money. Who's that kid with the knife? That's assault. That's a crime. Forcing classmates to stay out in the rain while he hides inside drinking water. What kind of animals did this school produce? Public opinion had turned completely. Class 3, which had originally worn the halo of victims, had now become a live showcase of ugly human nature. The parents group exploded again. Sue Manting's mother frantically at Jiang Nai's father. Mr. Jiang, look at what your son has done. What right does he have to hit my daughter? Is he trying to kill someone? But Jiang Nai's father, who had always been so arrogant, now fell eerily silent. In the face of hard evidence of assault broadcast live, no amount of power or money could whitewash the truth. I watched Shen Weining and Jiang Nai tear into each other on the screen, feeling deeply ironic. In my past life, they had also pushed me, weak and cowardly me, to the front as a shield, to bear the driver's anger and to dig in the mud in the rain. But in this life, with the weakest piece on the board gone, they could only turn their fangs on each other. A dog-eat-dog drama is always far more entertaining than one-sided bullying. I turned off the noisy parents group and continued watching the live broadcast. In the picture, the rescue team had finally come into view in the distance. Firefighters, carrying heavy rescue tools, were crossing the last landslide zone, rushing toward the camp. They were about to be saved. But for Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai, the moment they were saved was the moment their reckoning began. The outside world of law and order had already spread a net of justice for them. As the rescue team's inflatable boats and helicopters entered the camp, the live camera gave a particularly cruel close-up. The first person rescued was not the battered Sue Manting, nor the cowering ordinary classmates, but the class's nice guy, Chang Ziheng. He was carried out on a stretcher by two firefighters, burning with such a high fever that his skin had turned purple, his lips cracked and covered in a thick layer of dried blood. This student is severely dehydrated, with hypothermia and a lung infection. He needs to go to the ICU immediately. The field doctor's voice came clearly through the reporter's microphone. Just as Chang Ziheng was loaded into the ambulance, a violent physical altercation erupted at the scene. Chang Ziheng's father, breaking through the police line from somewhere, grabbed Gu Yanfeng by the collar the moment he stepped off the inflatable boat. That normally dignified middle-aged man, his eyes bloodshot, rained punches down on Gu Yanfeng's face. Animal. My son texted me that he had a fever and begged you for a bottle of water. You and Jiang Nai not only refused but also chased him into a leaky shed. That's murder. Gu Yanfeng's wire-rimmed glasses flew off. His fair face instantly swelled. Pinned in the mud, he looked nothing like the strategic class president of usual days. Spitting mud, he shouted at the nearby police officers in panic. "Uncle, help! He hit me first. I'm the class president. I was trying to organize everyone to stay safe. It was Jiang Nai who threatened everyone with a knife. This has nothing to do with me." This shirking of responsibility made Jiang Nai, who had been standing not far away and was already in handcuffs, see red. Hearing Gu Yanfeng betray him, he abruptly wrenched free from the auxiliary police officer behind him and slammed headfirst into Gu Yanfeng's stomach. The two immediately rolled around in the mud, biting, clawing at each other's throats, spewing all kinds of venomous curses. "Gu Yanfeng, you son of a bitch. You took the biggest cut of the black site kickback. It was you who told me to bring the knife for protection. It was you who said to kick the sick ones out to save water and food. And now you want to make me the fall guy. I'll kill you." Chaos reigned. It took an enormous effort from the police and firefighters to pull the two former friends, now biting and tearing at each other like dogs, apart. And this full-on brawl was broadcast live via the official media's Ultra HD camera, without missing a second or a single detail, to millions of viewers across the country. Sue Manting, wrapped in a heat blanket, sat beside an ambulance giving her statement to a couple of grim-faced police officers. She was crying pitifully, her finger trembling violently as she pointed at Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai. "Officers, I want to report them." Gu Yanfeng took kickbacks from Boss Wang and forced the driver onto a non-existent mountain road. Jiang Nai tried to threaten me with violence inside the container. They also stole everyone's phones and food. These past few days, we haven't been living like human beings. In the lens, these former core members of the class's high and mighty inner circle, faced with survival interests, the majesty of the law, and the judgment of the entire internet, had completely torn off their last mask of classmate camaraderie, revealing their most rotten cores. And I was sitting in my own clean, dry living room, holding a cup of freshly brewed lemonade. The screen reflected my calm face, watching Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai clawing at each other like mad dogs in the mud. My heart didn't ripple with so much as a single wave. In my past life, it was I who lay between life and death in the ICU. I who was forced by Jiang Nai's knife to dig mud in the rain. I who was accused by Sue Manting of lacking group honor. And at that time, Gu Yanfeng had stood there, using the same face he was now selling out Jiang Nai, to throw all the dirty water onto the innocent dead driver and onto weak, cowardly me. What goes around comes around. The castle in the air they had built for profit and vanity, in just one heavy rain, had collapsed into nothing. At 5 in the afternoon, the local police officially released the first official statement online. The statement clearly pointed out that the accident was caused by an illegal tour to a black site scenic spot. The organizer, Gu Yanfeng, was suspected of illegal business operations. Meanwhile, the suspect Jiang Nai, during the period of being trapped, was suspected of using a controlled knife, illegally restricting others' personal freedom, and intentional assault. He had been taken into criminal detention. The black site owner, Mr. Wang, had also been arrested at the mountain pass. The number of comments below the statement exceeded 100,000 within an hour. College entrance exam taker, class president taking kickbacks, illegal detention, assault. These words together completely shatter my worldview. That student named Xiao Yuan is so smart. Good thing she had a fever and didn't go. Otherwise, in that den of scum, who knows how badly she'd have been bullied. Suggest severe punishment for these two animals. They've ruined graduation season for so many families. I idly swiped through these comments and put my phone face down on the table. The rain outside had finally stopped completely. A ray of long-missed sunlight pierced the clouds and fell diagonally across my desk. On the completed application form on my desk, the words, "First choice, Jiangnan University, Law Major," gleamed in the sunlight. The study materials for the bar exam were already on their way. The rest of those scumbags' lives would be spent in prison and court battles. My brilliant life was just beginning. Half a month later, the graduation trip incident of Class 3 finally reached a preliminary conclusion on the legal front. That afternoon, I was sitting in the school's moral education office, cooperating with the police in a final background check. Because I was the only one in the class who had proactively left the group before departure and left behind a complete record of my leave request, call recording, and proof of refund. My testimony had become a key link in determining whether Gu Yanfeng had organized the trip coercively and with subjective intent to profit. The investigating officer, Officer Li, handed me a cup of warm water and said gently, "Qiao, don't be nervous. Based on the WeChat chat logs and bank transfer receipts you provided, we've confirmed that Gu Yanfeng did indeed accept a total of 7,000 yuan in kickbacks from the black site owner, Mr. Wang, before organizing the activity. Your act of refusing to go before departure is logically very clear." I took the cup with both hands, my expression calm. "Thank you, officer. I simply felt unwell, and the weather forecast kept issuing heavy rain warnings, so I decided not to go. As for what happened to them afterward, I truly don't know anything about it." As I was speaking, sharp wails and chaotic footsteps came from the corridor outside. It was Gu Yanfeng's mother. She no longer had the commanding presence she had displayed in the parents' group half a month ago when she was morally blackmailing everyone. She seemed to have aged 10 years. She was clutching the sleeve of Chang Ziheng's father, kneeling in the corridor in public. "Brother Chang, please, just go see Yanfeng. The doctor says Ziheng has been moved to a regular ward. As long as you sign this letter of understanding, Yanfeng won't get such a heavy sentence. He's only 18, he still needs to go to college." Gu Yanfeng's mother was a mess, weeping and sniffling, her voice echoing in the empty corridor. Chang Ziheng's father shoved her away hard, his eyes full of anger and lingering fear. Letter of understanding. "My son lay in the ICU for a whole week. He almost died from acute pulmonary edema. The doctor says he'll never be able to do heavy work again. When your son was taking that money, did you ever stop to think that my son was only 18? The door to the adjacent office opened, and Jiang Nai's father walked out, accompanied by several lawyers in suits. The once insufferable Mr. Jiang was now ashen-faced. Jiang Nai was suspected not only of intentional assault but also of using a controlled knife to injure someone at the camp, which was a serious criminal offense with egregious circumstances, no matter how rich his family was. In the face of the indisputable evidence broadcast live nationwide, no law firm dared to take his case for an acquittal. Jiang Nai's father walked up to Gu Yanfeng's mother and spat on the ground in front of her. "Stop your howling. If it weren't for your precious son duping people into the mountains for a few $1,000 in kickbacks, my son wouldn't have made such a serious mistake in a moment of impulse. We'll settle this account slowly in court." Watching through the window as these once respectable parents blamed each other and fell apart completely, I simply lowered my head and took a sip of water, my heart utterly calm. In my past life, without the live broadcast, without these ironclad transfer receipts, Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai had used the combined power of their two families to use the bus driver's death and my disability as shields, whitewashing themselves as innocent victims in court. But in this life, with the soft target, me, gone, facing the combined reckoning of the law and human nature, they could only sink deeper into the net they had woven themselves. After my statement was recorded, I picked up my backpack and walked out of the school gate. In front of the school's bulletin board, the honor roll of college admissions for the graduating seniors had been posted. My name, Qiao Yuan, stood at the top, followed by 4 gold-embossed characters, Jiangnan University. At the very bottom of the honor roll, where the names of Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai had originally been, the school had pasted white paper over them. In an attempt to salvage its reputation, the school had officially issued expulsion notices the day before, revoking all their college admission qualifications. Although Su Manting was spared from criminal prosecution, her selfish and despicable behavior captured on the live broadcast had become known throughout the city. According to a classmate who had come to handle some paperwork, she was now too afraid to even go outside. She was recognized and ridiculed wherever she went, and she spent all day at home crying, having developed severe social anxiety disorder. These former core members of the class's high and mighty inner circle, at the age of 18, had personally buried their own futures. Sunlight filtered through the camphor tree leaves, dappling my shoulders. I took a deep breath of the dry, fresh air, tightened my backpack straps, and walked toward the distant bus stop without looking back. My new life was set in stone. At the end of August, Jiangnan University's acceptance letter lay quietly on my desk. The school's emblem on its deep red cover glowed with a calm luster in the sunlight. I was packing my luggage for university when the phone on the table suddenly rang. I answered. My aunt's voice came through the receiver. She was sitting in a shop near the vegetable market, and her voice was full of undisguised emotion, a mix of sadness and satisfaction. Yuan, you're taking the train south tomorrow, aren't you? I bought you some fruit for the trip. Oh, and did you hear? This morning, the first instance verdict came down in that lawsuit for your Class 3. I paused for a moment, then casually stuffed a few law textbooks into my suitcase, my voice even and steady. Really? What was the outcome? That Gu Yanfeng kid, for illegal operations and coercive organization, which involved a matter of life and death, I heard he got 3 years in prison. No chance of probation. His mom fainted dead away crying at the courthouse door. My aunt clicked her tongue, lowering her voice. Jiang Nai got it even worse. Guilty of intentional assault, plus bringing an illegal knife and restricting others' freedom, multiple charges combined, sentenced to 5 years in prison. Both of them have ruined the rest of their lives. My aunt then rambled on a bit about Chang Ziheng's condition, saying that although he had been discharged from the hospital, his severe lung infection had left him with lasting damage. He couldn't even do moderately strenuous activity anymore and was studying at home to repeat the college entrance exam. After hanging up, I opened my phone. Sure enough, the headline on the local news had been updated. First instance verdict in North Mountain Blacksite College exam candidate missing case. 2 main organizers and involved parties sentenced. Illegal scenic spot shut down and fined millions. The news photo showed Gu Yanfeng and Jiang Nai sitting side by side in the defendant's dock, wearing the gray vests of the detention center. Gu Yanfeng's once neatly combed hair had been shaved into a crew cut. His face was sallow, and he had lost so much weight he was barely recognizable. He stared down at the judge's bench. Beside him, Jiang Nai's face was deathly pale. The arrogance and domineering attitude from his former days were gone, replaced in his eyes only by the fear of the high-walled prison life ahead. In the comments section of this news story, a top-rated comment read, 18 years old. Life had just begun, and they threw it all away because of greed and selfishness. Supposedly, both of them had gotten into good universities, but now they've both been expelled. I guess the net of justice has no holes, but it doesn't miss anyone. I scrolled across the screen. Without a moment's hesitation, I cleared all the cache files on my phone related to Class 3, and together with the long silent parents group, I clicked delete and exit, the nightmare that had haunted me for most of my past life. At this moment, with the fall of the judge's gavel and the ironclad evidence of reality, was crushed to dust. No supernatural sanctions, only the reckoning of the rule of law. The next morning, dragging my suitcase, I walked alone to the high-speed train station. The sun had finally broken through the clouds, shining down on the streets and alleys, without the heavy psychological burden. The breeze felt fresh and free. At the ticket gate, I stood in the long line, surrounded by other incoming university freshmen accompanied by their parents, their faces beaming with hope for the future. Standing alone among the crowd, my back straight, I clutched the ticket that would take me south. Passengers heading toward Jiangnan University, please line up at Gate 3 for boarding. The station's announcement came crisp and clear. I pulled up my suitcase and, facing the bright light ahead, strode confidently toward the gate. In this life, those who had reaped what they sowed would forever remain in the dark shadows behind bars and in regret, while I, bathed in sunshine and clarity, would run alone toward the bright, magnificent path that was truly mine. After listening to this story, what do you think? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Looking forward to hearing from you.